Welcome to Bean and Bracket Factory, and welcome to the fourth episode of the BSA restoration project or resurrection project. So in the third episode, well, second episode I started it. Third episode I made a new sprocket, which was an absolute ball ache. And in this episode, which is quite some time later, I'm going to stick the sprocket on, stick new clutch plates in, make sure the clutch plate's not sticking, not slipping, change the chain, change the rear sprocket, sort out the brakes, make sure they work, sort out the seat, and hopefully go for the first drive in approximately 40 years. So let's get cracking. Now, in the last episode I made this new sprocket, which I can put on there like that, and it works quite nicely, and I can start to assemble all of this, but not until I've changed the chain, because until I put the chain on it's very difficult to actually do this up, because you want to hold it still with the chain. So what is next up is to remove the back wheel and change the rear chainring on here, because as you'll see that is also very worn. So I'm going to take that off now. On each side you've got a nut which was quite tight, and you've got these adjusters which are a little bit bent, and then once you've done that you can basically just, if I pull a little bit harder, come on, there it is, wheel pops out. So I can now try and turn it sideways somehow. I might have to jack up a bit more, and I can get it out. There it comes. So what I need to do now is get that off. So the wheel's off, and I've taken out the brake assembly, basically just bolts through and tightens on either side. And I'm looking at the sprocket. Two things: firstly, that's how crazy worn it is. Secondly, the flipping thing's riveted on. Not like these modern Japanese bikes where you just unbolt it. This thing's riveted on, for crying out loud. So I now have to grind these rivets off, remove it, and then work out how I'm going to install the new one. So the old sprocket's off and on the bench, and you can see how horrendously hooked that is. I've no doubt this is the original sprocket that's never been off the bike. It's painted sort of purpley sort of colour, purple, reddy purple, the original colour anyway. So that's 60,000 miles worth of wear. This is the new one. As you can see, there's a marked difference in the profile of the teeth. Now, it was originally riveted on. Now I could try and rivet a new one on, but that sounds like a hell of a lot of hard work. So I'm going to bolt it on, but the trouble is, the rivets were quite a low profile, and the brake back plate comes over, and if you had a normal hex bolt on there, it would hit it. So I do have these. Now these are 3/16 BSF bolts, screws, which go through there quite nicely. Now, the only slight snag is they're made out of brass. Now, my initial instinct is, brass? What? You can't stick them on with brass. Brass is, it'll shear, for God's sake. But there are 10 of them, 10 holes, and 10 bolts is equivalent to 14 mil bar. Now, that bike can't pull the skin off a rice pudding, so I don't think I'm going to shear 14 mil, and that's assuming it was loose. If you tighten it all up tight, then you're not going to even have that shear force. So controversially, I'm going to screw the thing on with these little brass screws and see what happens. If it shears off, I'll eat my hat. I'll have to wear a hat, have to buy a hat, but I'll eat my hat. So screw it on. There it is, controversially screwed on with brass screws, and you can see that the back plate misses only just, but it misses. Bearings are good as well, so I'm glad the bearings are good because I didn't want to have to replace those. So time to start screwing it back together. Wheel now on. That went on quite easily. I even treated it to a little bit of grease on here even. Blimey. And I went to put the chain on, and it's too flipping short. It's a link, well, 2 links too short. So I ordered this from a specialist for a C12, and it's too short. But it's actually a very, very bog standard 4 to 8 chain. It doesn't look very, very sophisticated. So I'm just going to buy another chain off eBay. And when I get that, we'll have a little chat about chains, which I said I was going to talk about. So time to get a new chain, I think. It's now sometime later, and when I say sometime, I mean months later, because I've been slightly distracted by building that car. I have now got the chain, the longer chain, I've put it on, I put this locking ring on, I've actually tapped it tight, and it's got a little metal retaining washer, and you bend these tabs down inside there. So I'm just going to tap these down. And when I've done that, that means I can start to put this the rear casing on and start screwing it all together. Right, so the clutch basket is on, primary chain's on, and I've put on the rotor and the windings, and I've got to now put this locking washer on, but it's a bit knackered, and this nut which goes on here is also very, very chewed up. I need to sort of dress that a little bit, I think, tidy that up a bit. And this, if you ever do this, this nut that goes on here is a left-hand thread. Nearly caught me out when I took it off. I should have noticed the LH on it. So yeah, tidy that up and put those ones back on. Tighten up that nut, and clutch plates now in. There's only 2 actually in this clutch, so all I need to do is tighten down these three bolts, and hopefully I will have a clutch which doesn't slip, which is quite important, because if the clutch slips, you can't even kick-start the bike, because the kickstart drives through the clutch to the engine. So I'll nip these up again, and next thing is just to put this plate back on, and then I can connect the wires back up. Primary chain cover on, and I've put the footrest on. This nut is actually the same size as the nut that holds the clutch cover on, and it is, can you read that? 25-30 seconds. What sort of flipping size is that? 25-30 seconds, and I had to stick it in the lathe and turn some down so it'll even go inside the clutch cover. Anyway, that's done. Now I've got to sort out this little rat's nest. These connectors are completely turned to mush, glue. So I've got some new ones, horrible black stuff. So I've got to, fortunately I took a picture of this lot. This is all connects up. I took a picture of this lot, so otherwise there's no way I remember what the hell went on. So I'll clean all this stuff and connect it up. all cleaned up now. Use brake thinners and a Dremel, and now that they're all clean, it's pretty obvious how it all connects up. You basically just connect the colours to the colours, and I've got these extra little bullet connectors which I'll use to connect it all up. Look at that, all nice and beautiful and tidy and neat, but if we look back down here, we'll notice the cover's off again and the clutch is off again. And that is because the clutch was slipping. I adjusted it such that I preloaded the springs more. There's some spacers inside. These are the spacers that go on there like that. And what I actually did is I machined up some shorter spacers like that, which meant the springs could be wound in tighter, but it still slipped. So after a bit of Googling, I found out that it's fairly common. And a fairly common upgrade is to basically put more clutch discs in there. So I've bought, it's a 2 friction plate clutch, and I think you can go as high as 4. So I've bought 2 more metal discs. I'm going to use the existing friction plates and whack 4 in there. And if it still slips after that, then I shall probably be throwing the thing in the canal. So let's see how we get on. Extra plates now on, looking good, but of course this push rod, which actuates the clutch, pushes this way, but of course it's now too short. So it's 1/4 inch bar. So here we have one I prepared earlier. It's now longer. So that sticks out to the tune of another. It's about 11 mil. These 2 friction plates and 2 discs add up to about 11 mil. So I've made a new push rod at 11 mil longer. So now when I stick this cover on, like that, is it like that? Or is it like that? Yeah, like that. Stick the new cover on, it should actuate the clutch. So thankfully it now kicks over with not an ounce of slip. That's great news. So that means I can put the case back on, and it wasn't running quite right. It's been sitting 6 months. I might have to take the carb off again, have another quick look, see what's going on. But after this, we've just got to put a seat on it, and then we can take it for a blast. Chain cover back on. So now I just need to sort out this seat. So this seat didn't come with the bike. The bike didn't come with the seat at all. So I've got this seat off eBay. It's not a C12 seat, but it's something similar. It's got a little secret switch there. Obviously somebody has installed their own security device. But at the front of it, you've got this sort of U-shaped bracket. And that is very similar to what it would have had to engage onto here. So I'm going to whip this bracket off and offer it up to there, see if it fits, and then work out how I'm going to adapt it such that it actually clips underneath. At the moment, when you offer it up, the bracket's too high. So yeah, fiddle around with that bracket, I think. Quick update on Frankenseat. Took the bracket off, but this bracket was actually too narrow to fit on this here. So I've basically chopped out the centre section and welded in a wider bit to make the whole bracket wider. And then if you look at that angle, I've made these spaces which lowers it, so it now slots in quite nicely. And at the back, these 2 tie rods, totally by complete fluke, tie into these fixing points here. Presumably they're existing fixing points. So I can show you what that seat looks like in a minute. But in the meantime, I've got to support the seat in the middle, and I think this is what these 2 points here are for. So what I've done is I've bought these rubber door stops off Amazon for £3 or something. I'm going to basically mount these on either side. This screws out. This is a crazy cycle pitch bolt. So that's going to go in there like that. On the other side, I've got a nice little surprise. When I took this off, unscrewed it, and lo and behold, it's sheared off. So somebody's bodged it. and left this sheared stud in there. So can't really focus on it. There it is. So the whole bike it's obviously not a concourse restoration, but I can't leave that like that. I've got to get it out and do a proper job. So I'm going to take that stud out now. I may or may not bore you with that, but the mission now is to get the stud out. Old stud now removed. I'll spare you with the blow by blow video, but I drilled a hole in it. I then used one of these stud extractors, which didn't work. I heated it up, still didn't work. Then I drilled a larger hole and used a bigger stud extractor. That didn't work. In the process, broke. You can see there's a crack in that. I broke my tap handle. So in the end, I basically just drilled it out. Thankfully, I drilled it quite centrally, pretty centrally. Drilled it out and then used a set of taps just to run out the old thread, and it's all good. But it's a real ball ache. And if you don't drill it centrally, then you're about to wreck your thread. Anyway, now that I've done that and I've got a couple of new bolts, I can put on my rubber door stops and see how the seat fits. Rubber door stops installed, and they're nice and solid. So now it's just time to offer up the seat. Seat is now fixed on, rear stays connected, and it's nice and solid, very solid. So I think all that remains to be done is to go for a ride. So there you have it, first ride after 40 years, and it was actually really quite cool, quite nice. It's a very comfy, soft ride, which is quite nice. Not like these sort of screaming sports bikes. Clutch worked, brakes worked, engine picked up nicely, gearbox worked, everything worked. I mean, it's still an old nail. Let's not beat about the bush. But the mission was to get it going after 40 years, and it's going. So. Plenty more to do to it, I think, to kind of not exactly bring it back to how the way it left the factory, but the front wheel's got a bit of a buckle and the tyres are a bit dodgy, and yeah, various different things. Engine could do with a service probably, at least a change of oil, that might be nice. But I'm going to move on to other projects, I think, and actually there's another project that I might pick up next, so I think I might show you that now. It's just over there. So you may remember the Neeracar engine. It's obvious I like engines, big engines, little engines. I've actually got a 6.3 litre engine in a car, which I might tell you about at some stage, but because I like engines, I've also got this. And confession time, and the only reason I've got this is because I was watching another YouTube channel, one of my favourites, called Tweed's Garage, and he's got one of these. And it's a little 4-stroke, I think 46 or 48cc engine, which you can bolt to a push bike, which is very cool. So yeah, might be working on that. So I may be doing the next video on that little engine, which is called a Ducati Cucciolo, by the way. And Cucciolo is Italian for puppy, because it was said to make the noise of a yapping puppy as you belted around the village on your bike. So might be doing that. Also, I've got lots more to do on the Austin 7, not least a full-on race engine. Which should be quite exciting. Also a rather fancy pants clutch conversion for it, which is all ready to go. And if you're into much more terrifying things, I'm going to be working on a bike called a Yamaha YZR 500, which has got a 500cc 2-stroke. It's a race bike. So I'm going to be doing that soon. I may have to get my Brave pants out of the drawers for that one, because it is utterly terrifying. Anyway, if you're interested in any of that, hit subscribe and you'll find about it automatically. And please do feel free to leave any kind of comments. But for now, thanks for watching. Which should be exciting thing to build. Fucking hell. And if you want to leave a comment about it, anything,